Why do you think I would sing like a canary? Where is this coming from?
You're an honest person. You're not a liar. I call you a liar and a thief sometimes, but you're actually really not. Hello, listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of Books I Make My Husband Read. I'm your host, Kristy, and this is my co-host, my husband, whom I make read the books.
And my name is Jon.
This week, we'll be discussing The Boyfriend, a psychological thriller about obsession and the things we'll do for love. New York Times bestselling author Freida McFadden proves that crimes of passion are often the bloodiest.
That's an understatement for that book. But before we get into our discussion, we want to share the upcoming books that we'll be discussing, aka the ones that Kristy's going to force me to read. They are A Very Merry Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams.
Doesn't that make you just feel all ooey gooey inside? A Very Merry Bromance.
It does. I'm actually secretly, not so secretly anymore, excited to read this one.
Warm up a little cinnamon roll, get your coffee ready. Little dab of cinnamon on top.
Ooh,
little nutmeg.
That sounds delicious, actually. Can we have that for breakfast tomorrow?
I thought we were having pumpkin cheesecake for breakfast tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
It's all part of a balanced diet.
Yeah, for sure. I support this decision. And then that's it. That's going to be the last book of this first season. We will have one more episode, though. We're going to do a recap of our first season. Then we're going to take a little break over the holidays as we prep for what we're going to dub season 2. Probably to come out sometime in February.
Yeah, I'm excited for the recap episode. But in the meantime, don't forget that you can keep up with all of our upcoming episodes by following us on Instagram at Books I Make My Husband Read. And while you're there, you can drop us a comment or send us a DM if you have questions or anything you'd like us to answer in the show. And this week, we have a question, actually 2 questions, from Sarah in St. Paul. She asks if we have any gift ideas for book lovers this holiday season. And yes, I do. So you can always buy the book lovers in your life or the non-book lovers in your life who you would like to read the books, a book that you liked and enjoyed, and then give them a reason why you think that they'll love it. Don't just hand them the book, give them a specific reason to get them invested. And if you go on Etsy, they have a lot of personalized products for the book lovers in your life. You can do a really nice leather monogram bookmark. I've actually given and gotten that from different people. And I also received from my sister-in-law actually a really nice stamp that you can put in all your books. It says from the Library of Kristy. And then also, if you have a book lover in your life who is into a series like Fourth Wing or any other Sarah J. Maas series, they have personalized theme gifts like shirts and bracelets and hats and all different things related to the books. I also recommend Audible subscriptions or Book of the Month. Those are great gifts as well. Any gifts you can think of?
No, I'm a terrible gift giver.
And moving on. And then the second question we received was, would either of you consider writing a book? And if so, what genre? So I have an answer, but I'm curious, Jon, if you have an answer to this.
I definitely have never considered writing my own book. I watched my cousin go through, it wasn't it was a graphic novel. It wasn't a traditional novel, but I watched him go through the steps and the editing process. And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't need that in my life. I'll just enjoy the end product.
Yeah. So. I have 2 books swirling around in my head. The first one is a rom-com, and I'm not going to give you the details because it's very specific to the storyline. The second book is what I would call a literary fiction novel that what I would say is a societal issue that I think more people could be informed on. And instead of writing, a research paper or a research book, I would like to tell the narrative through a fiction book to get people more invested in the problem. And this is something that I would probably, I feel write before the rom-com because I just feel so strongly about it. And it's been swirling in my head for a long time. I actually reached out to past professors, both in undergrad and grad school that I had, to help figure out how I could do this. Time is just a big factor.
Yeah, I bet.
And I don't necessarily know that I have all the resources that I need now. And this might take me 10 years to write, but I feel really strongly about it, that it's something that I want to do.
Right on. I fully support this endeavor. Thanks for the question, Sarah. And as Kristy mentioned, if you have a question, you can message us on Instagram or email us at booksimake.myhusbandread@gmail.com. We'll be sure to answer any of your burning questions in an upcoming episode. And hey, remember, we will have spoilers in this episode, but don't worry. We'll warn you before we let the plot twist escape like a cat on caffeine.
All right, I'm going to do the book summary, or we're going to do the book summary, but this is a non-spoiler summary. Sydney Shaw, like every single woman in New York, has terrible luck with dating. She's seen it all. Men who lie in their dating profile, men who stick her with the dinner bill, and worst of all, men who can't shut up about their mothers. Even ones who FaceTime their mothers during their first date.
That's fucked up.
But finally, she's hit the jackpot.
That's right. Her new boyfriend is utterly perfect. He's charming and handsome and works as a doctor.
Is he Prince Charming?
Oh, nice one.
Continue.
Okay, thanks. Yes, her boyfriend is perfect. He's charming, handsome, not Prince Charming, and works as a doctor at a local hospital. Sydney is swept quite literally off her feet. But then the brutal murder of a young woman, the latest in a string of deaths across the coast, confounds the police. The primary suspect, a mystery man who dates his victims before he kills them. What?
Mm-mm. But Sydney should feel safe. After all, she's dating the guy of her dreams. But she can't shake her own suspicions that the perfect man may not be as perfect as he seems. Because someone is watching her every move. And if she doesn't get to the truth, she'll be the killer's next victim. Dun, 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 dun.
Nice. Nailed it.
We're hilarious.
All right. Anything from this point now after the summary will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
Here comes a swoosh. Okay, before we talk about what we rate the book and dive into our discussion, I think I'm going to do a quick summary. This, again, is going to contain spoilers. If you haven't read the book and don't want to be spoiled, exit now. But I think that for those who haven't and are still listening and want to continue listening, it'll just help with you understanding our discussion. So the story is told from two different timelines. Sydney, a woman in her mid-30s who is doing a poor job of trying to navigate the dating world. And then we have a high school boy named Tom who eventually becomes Sydney's present-day romantic interest. So we hear from Sydney, present day, and then Tom from in the past. So for all intents and purposes, Tom seems like an ideal boyfriend. He's charming, he's handsome, and he is a doctor. However, as her relationship progresses, Sydney starts to have doubts and ignores a lot of red flags about Tom. Simultaneously, she learns about a series of gruesome murders, one of which is her friend Bonnie, who finds victims through a dating app. Eventually, Sydney begins to suspect that her boyfriend may be the killer, and to be fair, all evidence does point to Tom. In parallel, we learn about Tom's past, which is marked by an abusive father, an obsessive high school relationship with his girlfriend Daisy, and a dark side that leads to Tom killing his father. Eventually, we learn that Gretchen, Sydney's present-day best friend, is actually Daisy, Tom's high school girlfriend. Daisy, as it turns out, was just as obsessed with Tom as he was with her. And in fact, her obsessiveness leads her to commit multiple murders, specifically the women Tom dates after high school, because she wants to keep him all to herself. The back and forth suspense grows as the past and present timelines lead to the disturbing fates of Tom, Daisy, and Sydney.
Whew, nice work.
Thank you.
That was a mouthful.
Okay, let's talk about what we rated the book.
Okay. Do I go first this time?
Yes.
Okay. Well, mic drop. I gave it 4 stars.
Why are you dropping the mic on 4 stars?
I don't know, because that's just what rolled off my tongue. I'll probably edit that out.
Better keep that in.
Yeah. I like the pace. Did feel like it kept me turning the proverbial page. Sydney's character kind of drove me bonkers.
She drove me bonkers too. I wanted to shake her.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I liked Tom's backstory woven through the main timeline. It made me think a little bit of the movie Memento. It was kind of like this
totally
backstory events leading up to the same sort of point in time and of current time. And I love that movie. It's one of my all-time favorites.
It's a little bit of a mindfuck, though.
It is. Yeah, that movie definitely is. This is a genre that I read the most of, not necessarily Freida McFadden, but just like thrillers or whodunit kind of books. And so I definitely felt like my bar was a little higher, a little different than other books you've had me read, just because I'm more familiar with the genre. So that's what I gave it. Where did you land?
I give it 4 stars. I think I have given most of Freida books 4 stars, which I don't think is bad. I just think that I usually can predict who the killer is, or I have a sense before we get to the real, killer. But then also, I do feel like most Freida books, the female main character needs to be shooketh.
Shooketh.
So for me, that's a little annoying because sometimes I'm like, red flag, girl, red flag. Burning hot red flag, and it just ignored. So sometimes that's just like annoying to me. Like, can you write a smart, confident character who's a badass and is not taking this shit? But I think that they're easy to read. She has a way of just like drawing you in.
Yeah.
And from the first chapter on, I just feel like I can't put it down. I need to know, even though, again, it's not like this is the best book I have ever read, but it's just that fast paced, nonstop, keeps me interested, keeps me hooked. There's only been one and a half that I was just like real disappointed with, but I'll read anything she puts out because I think it's great. I think it's worth reading. And if you like, mystery thrillers, like this is definitely it.
Yeah, right on.
But it's also, it's like what, I don't know how long is it? 300 pages. It's not a super long book. You know what I mean?
It's not like a huge time investment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I really like it.
Nice.
Okay. So how do you feel, moving on to our questions, how do you feel about stories where normal people turn out to have dark secrets? And does it seem realistic to you?
I kind of love that part about stories in general. It makes me think of shows like Dexter and Breaking Bad, where you just have these seemingly normal functioning human beings that have this dark passenger with them hiding behind there.
You love the idea of a dark passenger.
I really do.
Like you have talked about this multiple times. You love Batman.
It's so fascinating to me, that dichotomy that they can just like split the two and compartmentalize. But anyway, it seems realistic. There are normal people capable of doing terrible things. And
100%. I think every single person is capable of murder. And I mean, every single person is just circumstance, state of mind, who, where, like all those things.
Yeah. I think functional psychopaths are just like the scariest people on the planet.
Yeah.
Because you can't see them. They're just hiding in plain sight.
I also think that back to like the dark secret thing, not that everyone has people they killed in their past or things like that. I mean, maybe, but I do think people are carrying around secrets that they don't share with other people that would probably surprise other people that they knew.
Yeah, I agree.
For instance, I'm about to drop one on you that you don't even know.
Ooh, hit me.
I'm just kidding. I have nothing.
Oh, come on. That would have been so good.
I know.
That would have made our best episode yet.
I should have just made something up.
Shut up. Oh, nuts. But I think that it's totally realistic. I think that characters like that can be relatable because they just seem like everyday people, and you find yourself asking, how would I react in that?
Yeah.
Would I be capable of that? Because their situations or circumstances seem so relatable and normal.
Yeah. Yep. So as I mentioned, this story is told between 2 perspectives and timelines. Did this make the read more suspenseful? And then were you able to predict any of the twisty twists?
Oh, yeah, right. I really enjoy intertwined timelines. I I think it impacts the pace of the story. Like you kind of get this push pull between what's about to happen and what has happened. And you try to fill in the blanks of what led to such things. And like in Tom's particular case, the backstories of each detail that's revealed about his abusive father and all that sort of things, you start to, it's a great sort of like way to distract you from something else that might be happening that might be more important, or it just makes you, it gives you so many different pieces to think about when you intertwine these different timelines, and it just keeps you guessing. And I enjoy that part of it.
Well, it also keeps you hooked because a lot of times a chapter might end on a like cliffhanger or something happens, and then you get the next timeline. You're like, no, I need to go. I need to stay in this timeline.
That's a great point. Yes.
I also want to say that if you haven't read a Freida book, one thing I really like is she has short chapters, and I love short chapters. I cannot stand when a chapter is 30, 40 pages. Like that just drives me crazy because I will get through a book I realize it's the same length, but I will get through a book much faster if I can get hooked on the shorter chapters.
Yeah. It's like, it's easy to sit and watch 2 hours of like 4 episodes of a 30-minute show for 2 hours and a 2-hour movie.
Yep.
And I don't know why.
That's a big commitment.
Yeah, you're right. It's the same amount of time. I don't understand why, but it totally is. It's like, I don't feel like watching a 2-hour movie, but let's sit and watch 4 episodes of Shrinking.
Yes. Shrinking is a great show, though, by the way. If you have not seen it, highly recommend.
PSA, great show, Apple TV Plus.
So you like the timelines. Did you predict any of the twists?
I thought I did.
Either you did or you didn't.
No, I didn't. I thought I had my eye focused. I knew Tom was too obvious. I had my eye on Slug for most of the book, but even that felt a little obvious, but I just never thought it would have been Daisy. It's just too like a female serial killer who kills other females seems like more unlikely. And so I just never let my brain even go there.
Yeah. And does it such in a brutal manner too. Yeah. And the torture.
Yeah. Anyway, so I should probably ask you, reverse the question. It sounds like you're a fan of intertwined timelines. Do you have anything, like any other color you want to add to?
So I have read enough Freida books. I think I didn't look, but I know I've read at least 10 Freida books. And so I know that you're going to get a current timeline, and you're usually going to get a backstory or somebody else's story who very much seems like the killer. As it was in this book, like you're telling yourself like it has to be Tom. Who else can it be? But because I know that, I knew it couldn't be Tom. I knew 100% that there's no way it could be Tom. Sure. Although even knowing that, I'm like, well, maybe it does have to be Tom.
Yeah, maybe in this
because
book it
again,
is.
The evidence is so strong against Tom, but I knew it couldn't be. So there's this weird character, Kevin, who we haven't even talked about.
Yeah, real Kevin.
Who's a total creep. She goes on a date with him. He assaults her on this first date. Then he stalks her. And he thinks they're like soulmates or something, and is like telling her, don't give up on our relationship. He's so creepy. And I thought, oh, is that Slug being his best friend from his childhood? Or is Randy, who Daisy/Gretchen is now dating, Slug?
Yep.
And then I had a moment where I was like, oh, is Gretchen Daisy Gretchen? Is Randy and Gretchen, like, are they both like Slug and Daisy?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But when I really, really knew is when Daisy is going to meet Tom, and then he shows up and he sees a body, and you're supposed to think it's Daisy. And I knew it was going to be a Slug. I 100% knew it was going to be Slug. And then there's another point where Tom is afraid to go to Sydney's building where she lives. And you're supposed to think, oh, it's because he killed Bonnie. But I was like, no, he's afraid. And that's when I was like, is it Daisy Gretchen, or is Slug Randy? So I knew it had to be something like that. I didn't even think about like the female thing, like, oh, female serial killers are rare. I just knew that they seemed like obsessed with each other, and it just became more and more apparent. But again, it still kept me guessing. Mm-hmm. I didn't predict the second twist, which was, yes, Tom leaving with Daisy. I still think that's crazy cuckoo bananas.
Yeah.
And then I guess maybe a third twist where like they kill Kevin.
Yeah.
They kill Kevin, you bastards.
Yeah.
It's Kenny. I know it's Kenny.
Yeah.
That was creepy. So I didn't like see those things coming. I actually thought when they're in the last scene that Daisy, Gretchen, Tom are in, that Tom was actually just saying those things to get Daisy away from
Sydney.
And he really wasn't going to go with her.
Yeah. That's how I thought it was going to go too. I didn't see the second part either.
Yeah. So I was really surprised that he would spend so much time trying to get away from her. He was obviously complicit in her killing these other women, but he had he had somewhat a life. He's this medical examiner, which Sydney thought was super creepy. I think is pretty fucking awesome, but that's me. I'm a weirdo.
Checks out.
That checks out. You're right. But I did not see that coming, that they were like so obsessed with each other that they would like essentially be on the run for the rest of their lives. How do you feel like learning about Tom's past made you feel about him? Did your opinions like change as you learn more about his story? Like, did you feel empathy for him in any way, or?
I did. I definitely felt a certain level of empathy or sympathy for him. I mean, his father was a terrible human being. The abuse and the physical and emotional abuse towards his mom that obviously had an impact on him as well. And his internal dialogue with his struggle with his quote unquote dark passenger and his obsession with blood. But he really tried to fight it. He really tried to keep himself grounded in, I don't want to say reality, that's not the right word, but like grounded in morality, maybe.
Morality is probably good. Well, I remember I read something one time, or maybe this was actually on a podcast, that so if you haven't read the book, like Tom has some disturbing thoughts, like thinking how like blood would look, or he has dreams like about stabbing people or things that are a little creepy. So I was listening to this, I think it was a podcast, but they said like a lot of us have those thoughts. We don't talk about it, but a lot of us have those thoughts, and we have a thought enter and we go, that was weird. And we dismiss the thought because we're not going to do that. Like we have a knife in our hand and someone's standing next to us, and you think, what would it be like to stab this person? You're like, whoa, why did I have that thought? That was super creepy. I would never stab said person. And we move on with our lives and we don't talk about it. Imagine your inner dialogue being played out in a book like that. Sure. And I feel like that's what it is. Like, I actually feel like Tom's might have had these thoughts, but I feel like because of the abuse going on from his father, the actually obsession with Daisy's obsession with him, which I actually think that messed him up more than I think he was actually kind of quite normal.
Interesting. Okay. You want to unpack that? Like, why do you think his obsession with Daisy had
I don't think he was obsessed with Daisy. I think he was a young boy in love since he was young, which happens. I mean, he knew Daisy since he was 4 years old. He never really, talked to her or anything really until the book starts and begins, and then they start dating. So it's not like he's showing up at her house and peeping in her window and stuff like actually Slug was doing to girls. Right.
True.
So I feel like he had a normal crush to this girl at the time. She ends up killing for him, or what she thinks is for him. He kills his father. He kills his abusive father, and his friend helps him clean it up. Again, he's 17, 18 years old or whatever. So he's messed up by this. Then he thinks his friend killed somebody else for him, and it turns out Daisy did it.
Oh,
so just
right.
like imagine all these things happening, and then you move into adulthood, and suddenly like this woman who you thought you loved, who he says he realizes he can't be with her anymore, is killing other women in your life. You can't have a life. You can't date anybody because you're in fear. Like this person is actually, so I actually think Tom was like quite a normal person who end up really messed up because of Daisy.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
And because of his past trauma with his father.
Yeah.
And a mother that lived in, like, allowed him to stay in the trauma.
It's very astute of you.
So I have no idea. These are just my hot takes on the book. I did feel a lot of empathy for Tom. So speaking of Tom's people, people in his circle, thinking about Tom's mother. So we're led to believe that Tom's mother actually knows that Tom killed his father. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember, like, I'm not even 100% remembering the scene. So the father's like taunting him, right?
Yeah, because Tom came home, made himself dinner, but didn't make dinner for his father when he got home.
But then something else, and I feel like his dad's taunting him, and
yeah, because his dad knew about Daisy and started talking about Daisy.
Yes. Dad says he's gonna, like, go over to Daisy's house, and he knows where Daisy's bedroom is, and insinuating that he's, like, gonna go over there and assault her.
Yep.
So what do you feel like his mom made the right decision by not turning him in? And what would you have done in her position?
It's hard. It's hard to say it's right or wrong. I mean,
just to be clear, murder's wrong.
Murder's wrong. I know. I was just going to clarify myself with something like that. But that the reasons behind are often very gray, as we learned in, what was it, Heartless Hunter episode? Did we talk about gray areas and
morally
morality?
Gray.
Like, I understood why, and I think she did too. I mean, his father was an awful human. She knew that. I think she knew how that story was going to end if he wasn't killed, meaning, like, either Tom was going to die or she was going to die at the hands of their father. And so I think there probably was a sense of relief, maybe, like, did her a favor, did them a favor. But would I have done the same? If I put myself in her exact...
It's impossible, but...
Right. It's impossible.
Yeah.
In her situation, I think I would have done the same thing. I think I would have protected Tom too.
Protect her, yeah.
Yeah. But I actually think, well, I have a reversal question, but you can answer this question too. Like, what do you think? Was it right or wrong? Would you have done it?
Like you, it's hard to say, because if you're being abused by a partner and you're choosing to stay with that partner while your child is also being, abused as well, or seeing you be abused, which is in itself, a whole other trauma.
Right.
I don't know. However, I think that if she would have turned Tom in, it would have been better for Tom in the long run of his life.
Yeah.
I think that however old he was he a senior or was he a junior?
I don't know if they ever specified. Maybe they did. I don't remember.
But I think he probably doesn't get tried as an adult. Everybody knows, like, there's documentation that he is at the hands of an abusive father who has been in plenty of trouble in the town. He goes to juvenile detention or whatever.
Yeah.
He spends some time there. He probably gets the therapy that he needs and then can come out and have a productive life. He gets away from Daisy, actually.
Yeah.
And that's another thing.
Yeah. So that's a good segue into what I was going to ask you back. Like, I actually think the question to ask here is, how would Daisy's life path change if Tom had been incarcerated for the murder of his father? Like, she wouldn't have that, not a muse, but that motivator or whatever, right?
Right.
Or maybe she would. Maybe she'd find some other person to keep killing for. But I had that thought, like, how would her life path change if Tom had been incarcerated?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, but I think that for Tom, it would have been better.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, I do think you give our justice system too much credit to think that he get the therapy that he actually needs. But
that's very true. He'd at least have something, I guess. I mean,
he would have got away from Daisy.
You're absolutely right. But
he would have got away from Daisy.
He would have got away from Daisy. He would have been
the main piece.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So Slug is obviously Tom's ride or die. After Tom kills his father, as I mentioned, Slug comes over to help. No questions asked. Creepily knows exactly what to do.
For real.
Knows exactly how many trash bags to line his trunk with.
It was oddly specific, the trunk lining piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes Slug a good person? And then who would you call to help you bury a body or clean up a crime scene?
Jesus Christ. What's with all these morality questions? Good Lord. Right or wrong?
Just the easy questions here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would call you, if I ever killed someone.
What if I'm
I feel
the
like
one you kill?
you would know how many trash bags it takes to line a trunk of a car. I feel like you would have that knowledge.
I thought about this the other day. Wait,
Claire, which part did you think about the other day? Let's clarify.
My hair is everywhere, and I would leave DNA in places. There's no way I could clean up a crime scene. My hair would be there.
It would. That's true. You'd have to wear a hairnet.
Yes.
You'd have to do a lot of prep. Does it make Slug a good person? No. I mean, does it make him a good friend? Sure. I don't know how to answer this one.
It's okay. You can say he's a good person. You can say he's a terrible person. I mean, again, it's a morally gray area.
It is. I don't think he's a terrible. I don't think that makes him a terrible person. I don't.
Here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily make him a good person. We're led to believe that he's a bad person. And again, he's a creep. He was peeping in girls' windows. Don't get me wrong. No. But in this specific instance about helping his friend and asking no questions, we're led to believe that he also killed Allison because she saw them loading up the trunk. But it turns out it was Daisy that killed Allison. But he was willing to help his friend out with this specific thing. Yeah. Does he do it if Tom calls him up for any person, or does he do it specifically because he knew his friend was...
His father was so abusive.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a great question. We should email Freida, see what she says.
Yeah. Who are you calling to clean up a crime scene?
You.
Oh.
I was serious about that.
What if it's my crime scene you're cleaning up?
It is always the husband.
Or the boyfriend. See what I did there?
Good one. I don't know.
I think you need more friends in your life. You have nobody?
Apparently I do. I don't think I have anyone that I would call and trust with that. Maybe one guy back in Indiana.
Oh, yeah. You're not going to say his name, though.
No. I wouldn't put him in that position.
On record.
On record, yeah. But you know who you are.
Yeah.
Because he was also my one friend in Indiana. So there's that.
Oh, that's not true.
Narrows the scope. I was going to say that was rude, but it's not really rude when it's the truth. So anyways, so that's my take on Slug. I don't think I can answer that question with any sort of real clarity.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, what about you? Who would you call? I guess let's start there. And then do you think Slug is a good person?
I already said the good person part. I think helping his friend, no questions asked, is a sign of loyalty and commitment to a person. Does that make you a good friend? Probably. Does it make you misguided? Maybe. But I think it makes you a good friend.
Yeah. I would agree.
Now, your other question.
Yeah. Who would you call?
You 100% know who I would call.
I do know 100%.
And it's not you.
Nope.
Because you would sing like a canary.
That's fucking rude.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're probably a little wrong.
Oh, really?
I wouldn't sing.
You would just talk like a canary. So I have two brothers, and I love them both dearly. One I probably get along with a little bit better than the other one. But if I had to bury a body, I'd call the second one.
Yeah.
So to solidify this point, there is a reel that my brother sends me on a pretty regular basis. I feel like whenever it comes up on his feed, he sends it to me. And it's a scene from The Town. If you haven't seen The Town, it's a heist movie. And Ben Affleck comes into the scene, and Jeremy Renner is his brother.
Best friend.
And he comes in and he says, I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later. And we're going to hurt some people. And Jeremy Renner, there's a pause. And all he says is, whose car are we going to take? Oh, they're in Boston. That would have probably helped set the mood when I did the accent. Whose car are we going to take? and my brother would say, whose car are we going to take? No questions asked.
Yes, he would. Yes, he would.
And if you know me, you already know that. Because we talk about it. Because the other one would sing like a canary like you.
Why do you think I would sing like a canary? Where is this coming from?
I think if you were pressured and you were in interrogation, you would talk. You're an honest person. You're not a liar.
That's true.
I call you a liar and a thief sometimes, but you're actually really not.
All right, fine. I mean, if it wasn't you that I was killing, I might call him too, because he would just know what to do.
You slug.
Yeah.
Love you, bro. All right, let's switch to talking about Sydney.
Okay.
Sydney struggles with trusting her instincts. Your gut is, I read this somewhere, your gut is the accumulation of your experiences and the knowledge and like wisdom you have. So when you say, I'm just trusting my gut, it's not an impulse like thing. It is actually an innate sense within yourself that takes into consideration everything you know and all your experiences. So you should absolutely trust your gut. So have you ever faced a situation where you ignored your gut feelings and then what happened?
Have I ever ignored my gut feeling? Yeah. Multiple times.
And then you ended up married and divorced.
Yeah, that's
Me
exactly
too.
where I was going to go. Yeah, it's like when first marriage comes to mind. That's
yes.
exactly the biggest one. Geez. I'm really good at convincing myself in and out of something, especially when I feel like I need to prove somebody else wrong. I'm just going to like stubbornly go through with it. And my first marriage was definitely one of those scenarios. I mean, multiple jobs, I'm sure. And you're like, this just doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like a good fit. But I did the grass is always greener thing and convinced myself that, I should give it a try. It'll turn out to be this. And I'm just like, no, it's not anything at all what sold
The
me.
grass is greener where you water it.
Yeah, that's true. It's a poster somewhere. Well, all right. So that's my biggest one. Obviously, I'm sure there's many more. What about you?
No, I meant like
your first marriage.
First marriage too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, totally ignored red flags, and I don't think that person's a bad person. I think it's a bad person for me and our family dynamics and where we were headed in life. So absolutely. Also, a lot of the stubborn things you talked about led to that as well. But back to Sydney, though.
Yeah.
I would describe her as milquetoast. She drove me freaking crazy.
Yeah, it drove me crazy. And I feel like it takes a lot to drive me crazy.
I wanted to, I'm not kidding. I would literally, if I was her friend, I would shake her.
Yeah. Be like, what the fuck, girl?
Yes. She just constantly second guessed herself. She ignored things. She talked herself out of a lot of things that were very blatantly obvious. She literally has a guy stalking her and she says nothing. He physically abused her. She has a witness to the abuse.
Yeah.
And then he just continues to stalk her and she does nothing. So do you think the warning signs she missed, do you think that made the story more interesting, or I'm guessing it made it more frustrating for you?
It was super frustrating.
Yeah.
It was just like, I feel like it ironically made me have the opposite effect, that you want to care for Sydney more because she winds up being the main victim in the story.
Yeah.
But you also are like,
I know. Every time she was like, it's not that big a deal. I don't even think I really saw him. I was like, girl, call up your ex-boyfriend detective and report him.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why she didn't call him. That just seemed very childish and just like, I'm not going to call him, even though he's a detective and he can totally help me with this. It just seemed very silly. But also, I have a question. So as a woman, would your first thoughts after nearly being assaulted be like, damn, that guy who saved me is hot. I should get his number? Because that weirded me the fuck out.
Okay, so I don't think I'm going to answer that. But it's not even that she said he was hot. She was like, we had like an instant attraction.
Yeah, the lightning bolt thing.
Yeah, the lightning bolt.
Like, how would you have that after just nearly being assaulted by this creep?
Yes.
I just can't put those two. I can't comprehend that.
So I don't think I'd have been like, oh, I got the lightning bolt. He's hot. I think I could objectively say, oh, this man is attractive, but like it be a background to like what is happening.
Would you obsess about it over the next couple days?
No, I would not obsess about it. But even, what I was going to say is even, so that person is Tom in the story. And even Tom says, well, you had just been assaulted. I wasn't going to be the guy that says, oh, let me get your phone number. Yeah. Yet she was like, why didn't you ask me for my number then? Because you just were assaulted and you had like a black eye. That's true.
That's a great point. That speaks to what you're saying earlier about his character, about how like you think he was actually a good person with these dark thoughts that was functioning life normally, because that's what a normal person would do. They'd be like, that's weird. I'm not going to do that even if I thought you were attractive.
Yeah, I think Tom was just had a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
I mean, he was complicit in some of the things that happened, but when you were scared and you grew up in a not stable household, it is really hard to make traditional, normal choices that the average person makes.
Yeah.
So Sydney feels pressure to settle down because of her biological clock. She's in her mid-30s. She says she's 34 and she's wondering if she's in her mid-30s. The answer is yes. It is 100%. A spectrum. If you are 30, 31, or 32, or 33, you are in your early 30s. If you're 34, 35, 36, you are in your mid. And if 37, 38, 39, you are in your late. I'm in my early 40s. Jon is in his mid-40s. Anyway, Sydney feels pressure because she is in her mid-30s, and this pressure is specifically coming from her mother. How does this shape her choices and maybe like some of the people that she's choosing to date or the behavior she's engaging in these dates? And do you think Sydney's relationship with her mother helps you understand her better?
I do think you understand Sydney a little bit better. The relationship with her mom is interesting because on the surface, she seems like she's really annoyed with her mom. Every time her mother is calling, she makes a comment about it. But I do think that the choices she's making is in an effort to try to assuage her mom and please her mom and do that. And so I don't know if it's a conscious impact on her decisions or a subconscious impact on the decisions, but I feel like it makes it easier for her to look past all the red flags and the quirks of people because she's on one shoulder, got her biological clock that's counting down, that's very real for her. And on her other shoulder is her mother, might even be a louder clock that is chirping in her ear. And so I think it lets her it gives her an excuse to lower her standards and gets herself into a situation
a little bit of a pickle.
A little pickle.
But yes, I hear what you're saying. I think that some of the comments Sydney's mom made were outrageous. Sydney's mom, multiple times in the book, would call her and say, I have good news. I just found out that so-and-so's daughter is 37 and she had twins. So there's still hope for you, Sydney. Like her mom would call and say this to her. It's so fucked up. But you know this happens. And you know that there are moms out there who have daughters putting pressure on them, and sons too. I mean, let's be real, sons and daughters. But your kids will have children when they're ready to have children, and you should not be pressuring them at all. Let the timeline run out. Let them have children on their own time.
I agree.
So I do think, though, I totally agree with what you're saying, that she's making decisions to appease her mother, even though she's very much annoyed with the message her mother is sending her and saying to her, the things her mom is saying to her. And she's making some bad choices because of it. Yeah. She is overlooking red flags. She is giving people probably second chance. I mean, because we're only getting a sampling of, Sydney's dating life.
Yeah, even her relationship with Tom through the book, she's writing things off like, oh, that's okay. I'm trying to think of an example, but
he didn't want to meet her friends.
Right. Yeah. There. Thank you. That was a Perfect one.
They're at brunch and she texts him and his phone like doesn't get a text because he's been texting her from a burner phone. Like,
how do you not run? How do you just not be like?
No, I was like, see you, dude. Peace out,
I
Tom.
have to go to the bathroom. Hope there's a window in there.
Right. Oh, actually, she's at the dinner with Kevin and she goes to the bathroom and she says she's hoped there's a window in there. I'm like, I don't care if there's a window in there.
Straight out the front door.
Literally within the first 5 minutes of that guy sitting down, I would have gotten up and walked out.
Yeah.
No way.
I mean,
no way. And when he said, "You're perfect except for your arms," I'm like, what? and then she sits there and is conscious about her arms. Like, come on.
That part really got me. I was like, girl.
So if you were Sydney's friend, what advice would you given her?
I'd be like, you need to drop that bitch like a hot stone. Your life depended on it. Oh, wait, it kind of did depend on it.
A hot stone?
Yeah, sorry, it just popped into my head. I mean, I don't care if he's Dr.
I'm bringing that up again.
Okay.
Drop it like a hot stone. I think it's drop it like a bad habit.
Bad habit.
Hot stone, same thing. Tomato.
I don't care if he's Dr. Hunk. All the signs were like...
Wait, which Dr. Hunk?
Either one. All the signs point to run away. Run far, far away.
Run away.
And never return.
Run away and never return.
Yes, exactly. You caught my reference. You always do. I imagine you'd sing a similar tune. I mean, based on our conversation so far, as her BFF, what would you be telling Sydney?
Oh my gosh. I absolutely I have been friends with people who I'm not saying are like Sydney, but who have I have given advice about people they're dating and they continue to ask me for advice and then ignore what I've had to say. And I mean, I've said I don't know why you're asking me because you ignore what I say and you're perpetually unhappy with where things are at. So either you have to make different choices or you have to stop asking me for my advice. You don't want advice. You want permission.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in every Freida book, we talked about this a little bit, but there's a twist and then there's a final twist. Usually I see the first twist coming or I know it's coming, but usually I feel like I can predict it. But I usually don't feel like I always get the second one because it comes out of left field or it's just like this tiny little thing that makes you think. But in this book, I feel like there were kind of two. So you have Tom going off with Daisy, which I really didn't think was going to happen. I thought he was that was misdirection. But then we have Sydney getting Kevin's lock of hair in the mail.
Yeah.
And the little note that tells you that it was Daisy and Tom that killed him. Do you think that Kevin deserved this ending?
No, I don't. I mean, yeah, the guy was a creep, a total creep. And also, not that it's a total one-for-one comparison, but it's also a bit of a twist because up until this point, it had been Daisy killing women in Tom's life. And now is it going to be Tom killing men in Sydney's life?
Ooh. Because he actually really does love her.
Yeah.
Maybe he killed Daisy and now he's killing all the guys in her life.
Maybe.
I didn't even think about that. But no, I don't think he deserved that ending either.
Yeah, that's messed up. It
is really messed up. I would imagine if she's dating Jake the detective again, that she could have just reported. Hopefully she reported Kevin at that point. Or would have.
Hopefully she reported the freaking lock of hair of Kevin.
I know. Well, Sydney makes bad choices, so who knows?
That's true. Who knows? Good point.
Do you have any final thoughts on this book? And would you recommend it to our listeners? And then would you be interested in reading other books by this author?
Yeah, I would recommend it. I think I would recommend it to people who like the whodunit book. The twists are fun. It's not a long read. It's not a huge time investment. So you can maybe slide it in between another longer book. Yeah, so I don't really have any other final thoughts on that. What about you? Your final thoughts? Would you recommend?
Yeah, I definitely would recommend. Freida McFadden is a author that I often recommend. If you have not read her and this book sounds interesting, I would recommend you read it. And if you are interested in other books by her, I recommend the Housemaid series. I absolutely loved books 1 and 2 from that series. 3 was a miss for me. there are plenty of other books in her collection that I think are great too. But The Housemaids are my probably number 1 and 2. Never Lie is another one that's really good.
Right on.
So, and with that, we want to remind everyone that our next 2 episodes are going to feature A Very Merry Bromance by Lyssa K. Adams as our holiday read. And then our season recap will be 2 weeks after that. And then we will take a short break before we come back for season 2.
Sweet.
Don't forget, the free way to support our show is by leaving us a review and rating us on Apple Podcasts.
Or Spotify.
Or wherever you listen.
There you go.
Also, if you don't want to rate us, but you have a question, as Jon mentioned earlier, you can send us a DM on Instagram, or you can email us at booksimake.my-husband-read@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And
that's it.
That's all I got.
That's another one in the books.
That's another one in the books. I think you're going to have to come up with a new tagline.
Maybe something to do with hot stones, dropping them like hot stones.
All right. Well, who knows? Maybe this one will be the one your husband reads.
Yeah, you should. It's a good one.
It is. It's a good little psychological thriller. All right. Take care.
Okay, then. Bye-bye.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Adios. Hasta luego.